Archie, I just learned this new tactic for building wealth. It's called spaving.
Oh, well, I think I'm familiar with that, but I've heard it called overspending. I'm Archie Hoxton.
And I'm Rob Hoxton.
And this is Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. Welcome back to the Last Paycheck Podcast. We're your hosts, Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today we have a new topic for you, and it's kind of a new trend in the personal finance world, and it has a catchy phrase. It's called spaving, or spending to save. And it sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but it actually has really kind of deep roots in behavioral finance and how consumers pay for things and think about purchases. And so we want to talk about it today and kind of bust some myths and clear the air a little.
Yeah, so this all came up because I was wrestling with my insomnia the other morning at like 1:30, and it was just kind of I was on the CNBC website, and they had this article about spaving, and I had never heard the term before, but I immediately recognized it as an activity that I've been guilty of engaging in. Right.
We all have.
We all have probably. And so spaving it's a combination, a mashup of two words, spending and saving. Mm-hmm. And it's where you spend more money than you might otherwise spend because somehow it ends up potentially saving you money. So there's some pretty good and obvious examples. Like let's say you're shopping online and you know that you've got to buy $150 worth of stuff in order to get free shipping. So the item that you want is $130. So you end up putting unnecessary items into the shopping basket in order to maybe $20 worth to get up over that $150 mark and get that free shipping. So that's a scenario in which you're spending more in order to save on something. Problem is that maybe you wouldn't have really bought, those pink tennis socks because they don't really go with your golf gear, right? But, you buy them anyway because it just happened to be $20. Anyway, another example would be, if you're like shopping for a car, this is classic. You're shopping for another car and you really want the power sunroof and the power running boards. That is an additional upgrade. It's more expensive, but you have a sneaking suspicion that maybe the trade-in value down the road will be higher. Your resale value will be higher. So you convince yourself to spend more now because you think you'll get more later. That probably won't happen. And then another one that we hear about often, and I have a group of friends that have mileage credit cards, and we all love to travel. And so we're like, oh, if you can get enough points, you can upgrade and get first class. You can do whatever. You can buy airline tickets or hotel rooms. And so everything they do gets put on the credit card.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed lately, but increasingly merchants are starting to add an additional charge, usually around 3% to your credit card charge. So what you're doing is you're paying an additional 3% on whatever you're buying, and you're getting some points. But I'm pretty sure that the points that you're getting or the cash back that you're getting isn't 3%. It's usually 1 or 2%, depending upon what you're buying.
Right.
So those are examples of spaving.
I would say credit cards are in a lot of ways the ultimate spaving tool because of the points, because of the miles and the cash back. There's the sense of you that's like, well, if I spend more, I'll get more points and I'll get to take this trip and save money on it. But you may be spending more than you would have normally set out to do. And so where if you think about it another way, what if you had taken those extra dollars that you had spent and actually saved them in a high yield savings account, earning 4 or 5%, or in the stock and bond portfolio, earning potentially even more than that? And in that case, you're really, really saving there. So it's one of these sort of rationalization tools that we humans love.
I want to touch on that because retailers have figured us out. Mm-hmm. They've spent decades studying behavioral finance, and they have figured us out. But before we leave this other topic of the points credit cards or the dollar-back credit cards, I have a lot of friends who are small business owners, just like we are. And what they have figured out is if they use a credit card like this and they buy all of the stuff they need for their business on that credit card that has cash back or points, they can then spend or retrieve that cash, and it avoids the whole process of reportable income. Now, that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, but what they figured out is if you own a restaurant or a bar and you buy tons of stuff, food and liquor and beer and all these things to sell in your establishment, and you use a credit card that has points back or cash back, and then you use that for personal reasons, it can be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that's
be careful though, because
really,
if the IRS catches wind, you could be in trouble.
That's cutting it really close to tax.
Yeah, that could
avoidance
be,
or
even
worse,
fraud.
Or fraud.
Yeah. So that's something to be very mindful of. If you're tempted to do that, be very, very careful. But so let's get back to the behavioral finance. So the retailers have figured us out. They've been studying behavioral finance for decades, and they really know that as humans, we have a tendency to want to justify our desires. And if they can give us something that makes us feel like we're saving money, deal's done.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even if you look at sort of popular culture, you can look at different generations and there are different terms. When I was coming up, the term was YOLO, and it was a rationalization tool to whether it was buy something or do something that you might not otherwise do because of risk or expense or whatever it is. But it's like, well, you only live once, so you should just do it. Right now, the terms are girl math and boy math, and it's all over TikTok, and it's how people rationalize spending money on something. So if you spend, like for example, one of the great examples is, well, I went to Target or Walmart or wherever, and I spent $500, and then a few weeks later I went and returned half of the items. Well, I just made $250, and so now I can go spend it. And it's like, well, that's another rationalization tool. It's kind of like spending to save. It's just got a different term in the sort of the pop culture world.
Yeah. So I did hear the girl math thing, and actually I thought it had a positive connotation when I read it, because it talked about looking at an expensive outfit and figuring out how many times you might wear that, and then figuring out the cost per wear, right?
Yeah, that's a great way.
I have a pair of work boots, a pair of Red Wing work boots that I was given by my parents when I was a teenager. I still have that pair of boots, and I still wear them when I work on the farm. And if you figure out the cost per wear, that pair of Red Wing boots, best investment I ever made.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And so that's one where there are areas in this sort of spaving term that actually make really good sense. That's one of them. Buying something, spending more on something that's really high quality, like the Red Wing boots, or spending a little bit more on clothing that's high quality that will last for a long time, that you'll enjoy for a long time. That's a good example. Another one would be, if you shop at Costco, you might be someone who's sort of a spaver. You're spending a whole lot more in 1 week on toilet paper.
Oh, or French's mustard.
I
have, for the last 14 years, had 3 bottles of French's mustard that are this big sitting in my pantry.
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it really works out if you don't end up eating it.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, cost per hot dog, pretty low.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Well, Archie, ultimately, we're all responsible if we overspend.
Yeah.
Right? But, the cards are sort of stacked against us a little bit. Retailers have a couple of things that they've figured out. Number one, have you ever noticed if you talk anywhere near your smartphone and you say, I'd really like to have, you name it, whatever it happens to be, a new chainsaw. Well, all of a sudden, you're going to have Steel ads popping up trying to sell you chainsaws. And to be clear, we're not sponsored by any of the names that we're talking about today.
Oh,
right.
Course,
we are not
right,
sponsored.
Right.
We receive no benefit from any of these companies. But They just happen to be products that we like. So they're listening to us. The smart, so that the big data and AI is figuring out what it is we want to buy, and then they're serving that up to us. And then they're doing things like anchoring. So anchoring is when you're shopping for something and they tell you that the price of this object is $100, and then they give you the opportunity to buy it for $75. You're like, I'm saving $25.
Who doesn't love a good deal?
Yeah, and who's to say the anchoring price was actually the real price?
Right. See, that's the catch. You have to remember, they're not going to lose money. They want to just sell more stuff and more and more and more. And so if you're like anyone else, you love a good deal, and then you're probably more inclined to buy that thing.
If you're buying something like, let's say you're going to get a new lawn tractor and you're at the dealership and they're like, okay, well, here are 3 models. One's more expensive. It comes with a leather cup holder. Here's one that's less expensive. And here's the one that actually has 4 rabbits that run it. Right. and of course, you're not going to go with the 4 rabbit one, and you're not going to spend the money for the leather cup holder because that seems extravagant. You're going to go with the one in the middle. I call that middling. That's not really a term, but that's a way that they make you feel like, I'm going to buy this expensive piece of equipment and I'm going to save money because I'm not buying the expensive one.
Yeah. You're not cheaping yourself out. You're making a wise choice by not buying the expensive thing, and you're getting a really good value, even though that thing might be marked up like crazy and they're making a big margin on it.
And then when you pull up in the driveway with that thing on a trailer and you walk inside and you can see your spouse, the steam coming out of her ears, you can say, look, I saved a bunch of money by not getting the fancy one.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but that's the way we think. And then the other thing is scarcity. If they make you think that it's scarce, then you feel like you're getting a really great value. Maybe you're saving money because it's something that people want and there aren't very many of.
Well, and it can be, the scarcity could be the product itself. The scarcity could also be the deal. Limited time only, limited edition. This is, hey, I can't promise you that I'm going to give you this deal next time you come in because we got lots of inventory right now.
All the cool kids want this thing. Yeah. Here's your one shot at it, buddy.
Yeah. So the scarcity thing is real in the sense of urgency that you get. And that's more often when you're in a sales environment talking to a salesperson, you can kind of get that sense of urgency, that sense of scarcity. This deal is not going to be around forever.
So just in summary, spaving isn't a terrible thing because there are cases where you actually, it actually is true. You're actually spending to save. Most cases it's not. It's just a way to justify overspending. Problem with overspending is that you're outspending your budget. You're probably doing it by borrowing, so you're potentially racking up credit card debt. Credit cards, current rates, 20, 25%. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Not a good thing to do.
Yeah, and then you pay any of that interest, and there goes the savings that you had on points, miles, and cash back.
And then you're just gone. You just have the SP and no longer the AVING, right?
Right. So, there's no saving. There's only spending. So that's good. So, well, anyway, we hope you enjoyed today's topic. If you have questions or comments, please leave us a comment. Hit the like button. Share with your family and friends. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll hope to see you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.